Hello everyone. We continue our study of OpenGL today in this lecture. So we have already discussed how does OpenGL help us in interfacing our application program with the GPU hardware, and where are the different libraries in the graphics stack. Today we are going to discuss some fundamental concepts relating to OpenGL. So OpenGL primarily takes as input geometry data. The most fundamental concept that OpenGL deals with for representing geometry is a vertex. So vertex is a point coordinate for OpenGL. It is internally represented as a 4 vector, that is a vector with 4 components, and we will figure out what these 4 components are. For now, you just take it as a point in 3-dimensional space. These vectors these vectors that represent vertices are assembled into primitives. So the primitives are the basic elements that OpenGL can draw. So OpenGL can either draw points or lines or triangles. Okay, so these are the primitives that are available to modern OpenGL, and then these primitives are sent to the rasterizer, and the rasterizer generates a fragment corresponding to or a set of fragments corresponding to every primitive. Okay, so OpenGL, so what is a fragment? OpenGL calls a pixel a fragment, but that pixel has a lot of other information. It obviously has the location of the pixel in the frame buffer. It has which is just the x and y coordinates of the pixel on the grid. Then it contains color. It might also contain other information like normals and depths and opacity and so on. So we are not we will see all these as we go through the course. We will not immediately get to them. So to begin with, you can just think that a fragment is OpenGL's name for a pixel, and the pixel contains a location and a color information. So we have discussed this in the past, that OpenGL does not ask whoever implements the OpenGL API to implement a particular algorithm. So what does OpenGL ask instead? So the OpenGL rasterization specification is as follows. So if you have a pixel grid, and the pixel grid has say these coordinates 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1. So here the corner is representative of this pixel. So you will see that in our discussion, sometimes we take a corner as representative of a pixel, sometimes we take a center as a representative of a pixel. It does not really matter till as long as you are consistent within that particular discussion that you are having. So in this case, we are saying that 0, 0 is, say, the coordinate of this corner and represents this pixel. 1, 0 is the coordinate of this corner and represents that pixel, and so on. So now we can also assign subpixel coordinates to the centers of the pixel. So if this is 0, 0, this is 1, 0, and this is 1, 1, this is 0, 1, then this point is 0.5, 0.5. This is 1.5, 0.5. You cannot really address these subpixel coordinates, but you can certainly for the purpose of the specification, OpenGL is just talking about the center of the pixel, right? And to make matters clear, I have given them these coordinates. Now also considers these rectangles that you get by joining these midpoints of every side of these pixels. So consider these diamonds, that you get by joining the centers of the sides of every pixel. And the reason for considering these diamonds will become clear soon. So now if you want to rasterize, say, this blue line on the pixel grid, then which pixel should be covered or colored? So OpenGL says the following, that if this line passes through this central diamond of a pixel, right? So it passes through this diamond and it passes through that diamond, then you color the corresponding pixel. Okay. So that is OpenGL's specification for line rasterization. How you achieve this, whether you implement Bresenham or you implement any other rasterization algorithm, is not OpenGL's concern, but this is what your rasterization algorithm should output, that if a line intersects this central diamond of a pixel, then that pixel should be colored. Okay. Similarly, for polygon rasterization, here you have a polygon and you have the pixel grid inside. So the polygon rasterization spec in OpenGL says that, polygons whose center, pixels whose centers lie inside the polygon, those are the pixels that should be colored for a filled polygon. So it does not say do scan fill or do flood fill, but it says this instead. Okay, how you achieve this is again is up to you, or is up to the vendor who is implementing OpenGL. So we can see that OpenGL is giving the specifications in an implementation independent manner, and the actual implementation is left to the vendor themselves. So this is just to give you an idea of the OpenGL rasterization. If you are interested, you can go and read the actual OpenGL spec and see that is much more detailed and talks about many more things, and is available online on the Khronos Consortium page for OpenGL. Let us quickly see how OpenGL has evolved over the years. So OpenGL started with OpenGL 1 in the early 90s, and it would take vertex data and pixel data as input, and they would get assembled into primitives, and then a rasterizer would generate fragments, and these fragments would be output to the frame buffer. Now, in this entire setup, none of this, so this is called the graphics pipeline. Okay, this is the OpenGL pipeline. This pipeline was known as the fixed function pipeline because the stages of this pipeline, so like transforms and primitive assembly and fragment coloring and blending and so on, so these operations were fixed. What happened in these pipeline stages was fixed, and you could not change them. So you could not program this pipeline component. So this was known as the fixed function pipeline, which was introduced in OpenGL 1, and up to OpenGL 2, this pipeline stayed pretty much fixed function. A few more stages were introduced, but the pipeline stayed fixed function. Then at some point, OpenGL decided that it could allow some vertex shaders and fragment shaders to be included. So users could write some part of some shader code that would go and operate on every vertex and every fragment that was passing through the pipeline. So you give OpenGL a set of vertices. All of them are acted upon by the shader that you have put in here. Then it goes through the raster. Then it gets assembled into primitives, generates fragments via rasterization. Then the fragment shader acts on every fragment, and then they show up on the screen via the frame buffer. So OpenGL 2 added limited support for vertex shading and fragment shading, but it was really in OpenGL 3 to 3.2 that OpenGL introduced a deprecation model and said that the fixed function pipeline is now deprecated. Okay, and another major change was that instead of feeding small chunks of data and then drawing them and then feeding more smaller chunks of data and drawing them, OpenGL now said that okay, we will feed in data in large buffers. And this was of course more efficient because you have to do less IO with the GPU and you can render all that data in bulk. So GPU architecture had already progressed by the time OpenGL decided to catch up. So for a while OpenGL was lagging in features and was not really up to par with current GPU hardware. So you can see that this is a huge wait. From 1994 to 2008 OpenGL took to modernize. But since then OpenGL has been has been updating itself pretty fast. So here you can see that there have been more kinds of shaders that have been introduced to OpenGL. So vertex shaders, tessellation shaders, geometry shaders, fragment shaders, and there are now even compute shaders which OpenGL has in primitive, and so all these shaders are programmable, right? So almost every stage of the pipeline now has become programmable. Only primitive setup and rasterization continues to stay sort of non-programmable, that is implemented or available to everybody by default in the graphics card, and everything else is tunable using shader programs. Okay, so this is what exists in OpenGL 4 and 4. Up to 4.6. We are okay with any OpenGL version 3.2 onwards. Okay, so the main functionality we want is that of a vertex shader, a fragment shader, and the ability to handle data in buffers. So we will not really talk about tessellation shaders and geometry shaders in this course. So you need not worry if your graphics card can only support OpenGL 3.3 and not OpenGL 4.1 and so on. So 3.3 is just fine. So we do not need to know all these complicated stages of the pipeline. We can have a much simpler view of the pipeline for now. And this is the view of the pipeline that we will mostly talk about. Remember that this is the simplified pipeline that exists on the GPU. Okay, so what is this pipeline? This takes in vertices, and on every vertex that comes in via a buffer, the vertex shader operates, and then after the vertex shader has finished operating on these vertices, they are assembled into primitives and sent to the rasterizer. The rasterizer generates fragments, and then on every fragment in the fragment stream, the fragment shader operates, and then you finally get pixels on your screen. So we say that the vertices are a stream of vertices and the fragments are a stream of fragments. So the GPU can also be thought of as a streaming processor. So it is working on streams of data, and from the application to frame buffer, via the GPU, the pipeline is guiding the flow of data, and the instructions are of course operating on the GPU. So for our purposes, when you are writing any code, you have to code these three things. You have to write your application program that is going to load all the shaders, that is going to load all the data, and then it is going to say how these shaders, how this data makes up triangles or geometry. So it is going to have the specification of geometry, and then it is going to fire off the draw call, which is going to send off the vertices into the GPU. Then the vertex shader is going to be picked up and executed. Then the rasterizer comes into action automatically. Then the fragment shader is going to be picked up and executed. And finally, if everything has gone well, you will see your pixels on the screen. Okay. So this is all about OpenGL basics. Next lecture, we will dissect an OpenGL application program in detail, and we will actually go through line by line of code and try to see what those lines mean. Okay, so I'll see you next time. Thank you.